Good evening, everybody. As you're coming into the room, just let yourself be known. So I know you're all in here tonight. As always, we have a very special guest, director, producer, actor, musician, Mr. Tylon Usavior Washington. And we're going to premiere salute to my guy all the way out, Anthony Egro. What's up, brother? We're going to be premiering the trailer of his new movie. It's called Disappearing Voices, Decline of Justice trailer. Well, I'm going to be premiering the trailer. You have to forgive me. That stroke sometimes messes with my cognitives. Mr. Washington has been in the entertainment business for quite some time. I'm talking music, film, and performative art as well. He had a very impactful and amazing documentary called Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio. And if you all go out there and watch it, man, it's just talk about predictions, talk about telling the truth about what's going to be happening to radio. And it's very insightful. But tonight, we're going to be sitting down with him talking about this new venture, this new movie. And I hope we're going to shed some light on what's going to be going on around us with regards to the justice system and how people are treated unjustly. So before we do that, I want to share the trailer with everybody so you can take a look. If you weren't able to watch it, you can watch it now and sort of get an idea of what we're going to be speaking about tonight.
What happened was a tragedy, but it was an avoidable tragedy.
What we know of is there's 57 cases being reviewed, and we don't know all the details.
We can't have that happen if the Conviction Integrity Unit is simply back to the old ways, rubber stamping convictions.
Follow the evidence. If the evidence say you must be free, free him.
Right.
And that's all we ask.
He told his witness that if he didn't testify against me, that when I get out of prison, that I would kill him and his family.
The head of the unit has himself been involved in wrongful convictions, engaging in prosecutorial misconduct, withholding evidence of innocence.
You know, for every wrongful conviction, there's a guilty person walking around free. There's an innocent person whose life has been destroyed.
There is a clear pattern of blatant violations. Evidence, clear-cut evidence of innocence that's being suppressed, misrepresented, destroyed.
Are there rules when it comes to homicides? No, there are none. I will do whatever I have to do.
There's a justice system that has lost some of its legitimacy.
That's ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous.
Well, I was wrongfully convicted and served 27 years in prison for a crime I did not commit.
My name is Terrence Rice. I'm an innocent man. I've been incarcerated for over 30 years for crime that I didn't commit.
When the shackled Vincent Simmons arrived at the Avoyelles Parish Courthouse in a prison van, he was carrying a Bible.
None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. 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 One of us is chained. None of us are free.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I saw the trailer last week, I was very moved by this because it's something that we should all be discussing at one point or another, because the justice system has never given a fair shake to black and brown people, specifically black people. And we all know this. We all understand it, but we stand by idly while this system that we live under continues to grow and overreach and destroy people's lives. I mean, we've seen it throughout the history over the last 20 years, especially with the rise of media and the accessibility to video. You see it happening right in front of your eyes. And I know a lot of us like to point fingers and put blame and say, oh, it's the culture, it's this, listen, at the end of the day, when you're in a courtroom, you are supposed to receive equal treatment under the law. And it just doesn't happen. And if you're honest with yourselves, at the very least, if you're honest with yourselves, you know and understand that this is happening. So why aren't we doing something to change that? Well, with that said, these allergies, my guest is telling me about allergies, and now I'm getting allergies. Before we start the show, I want to give a very special shout out to my very young nephew who's celebrating a birthday. My nephew, Evan Matthew, happy birthday, young man. Stay on the right path. Continue to do what you do, getting those good grades, study hard, keep yourself in check. All right? Love you, buddy. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to welcome our guest, Mr. Tylon Usavior Washington, director of this very powerful doc. So without further ado, let's bring him into the room. Here he is. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Oh, man. Every day above ground is a good day. That's my slogan, and
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sticking to it. First of all, I want to thank you very, very much for having me on your wonderful program and providing me an opportunity to spread the word and speak to your highly intelligent, involved, and engaged audience. This is a very important film and topic, and I'm just grateful to have this opportunity.
No, of course, and I appreciate your time as always. People understand that when people are working on projects such as this one, you are in for a load of work that you're going to become inundated with. And Mr. Washington here is definitely somebody with his boots on the ground, but we want to recognize and respect the fact that he's still able to reach back and give us his time so we can have this discussion. So we really appreciate you putting some time aside for us to talk. And
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You already know what it is on this side.
Yeah.
Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. First and foremost, it's happening to me.
You see, I'm telling you, it's that Bronx. I keep telling everybody, it's the
he's sending them digitally.
It's just the air quality here in New York City. It's
terrible.
It's on the decline. It wasn't in a good space, and so it's just
so let's start from the top. So how does the thought to put into action this idea surrounding the justice system, like how does this sort of culminate with you saying, okay, ready, set, go, we're going to make this happen?
Right. Well, I have to really thank a really brilliant and beautiful sister. Her name is Antonia Cotling, and she's an attorney. She's a people's attorney. She doesn't like when I tell people she's with the Legal Aid Society. So I want to always make sure that I promote her as the people's attorney. I mean, those, that's her 9 to 5, but, she has been the, one of the producers of the film and have allowed me to really go into these places during the height of the pandemic to speak to these brothers who are locked down, who are actually and factually innocent, and are doing, as you see in the trailer, one gentleman 38 years, 24 years, 28 years. And, when you say this, it's really hard for us to put ourselves in other people's shoes and think about every day, every hour, every minute, every second that someone is in a place that is so disgusting, so dehumanizing, so degrading. You can't think of a worse human condition for a human being to be in outside of death. to be incarcerated. And in fact, deaths are on the rise when folks are for the population that's incarcerated, because they would rather die than to be in the so-called correctional facilities. So this is a very, very important issue, and I know a lot of folks are talking about Roe v. Wade, but I think the Black community need to pay attention to what the Supreme Court said about the wrongfully accused. As a matter of fact, it said, and this is just in May, right before the decision of Roe v. Wade, which I think was a distraction, is that state prisoners, which could be you and I, your uncle, your cousin, nephew, matter of fact, your nieces and your aunts, your mamas, your daddies, they may not present new evidence in federal court in support of a claim that their post-conviction counsel in state court was ineffective in the violation of the Constitution. So, the ruling is a major setback. It's a defeat for two inmates who are currently on death row, right? They're faced with death. And this Supreme Court said, too bad you didn't get the information in on time, and you no longer have the federal court to look at this, no matter how compelling that claim may be. So this is a very, very important issue. There are literally thousands of innocent people who are currently languishing in prison. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we also know, as part of the prison culture, a lot of people don't want to come off as innocent because you might be viewed as, weak and soft. And prison is one of those places you don't want to appear that way. So you have a lot of people who are exaggerating or not even pursuing it. You have a high level of illiteracy, where a lot of folks are not able to seek justice on their own, like the case of a gentleman named Derek Hamilton, which I guess we'll get into. But I think somebody told me that I don't that I go too far, and I say that we don't go far enough, just in general. So it's like, when I was made aware of this situation, I'm a filmmaker, so I said, oh no, we're going to do a film. We're going to do a film about this. And I got together with my incredible partners over at Iron Metropolis, Terrence Colbert, who's the CFO, Lakota, who's a producer, Karis Whitey, who's another producer, and my twin sister, who's also part of Iron Metropolis. And we decided to put together this film to do our part to free some of these people. We have to become more empathetic and more sympathetic and understanding of our kith and kin, and understand that this is a system, and the system was never designed to empower Black and brown people, and that slavery is still in effect, but just under another name.
For everybody paying attention, there's so much that he said there, and there's a lot to unpack. But for sake of time, I'm going to pull apart a few pieces as we talk. Okay. We may not hit them all, but we'll cover our bases. First and foremost, with the Supreme Court ruling of not allowing new evidence into a case, you hit it on the head when you said that there's a complete distraction, because we don't have, for what I understand, any recourse for folks who plant evidence or who frame people outright, as you can see here with these brothers and people in the past. I mean, the most popular case, the Central Park Five, or, they have a new name that escapes me right now. But those brothers, had it not been for, DNA evidence and somebody coming forward and saying, hey, it was me, essentially, they probably would still be in jail. Now, we're talking about federal cases, all right, but still, that ruling will affect many. And for the most part, which was going to be my next question, what is the commonality of the people that you had on this dock and the people that you met, that you found outside of being innocent? You know, were there any people that did not look like you along the way? And if so, what were the numbers like?
Well, you know, there is definitely a disproportionate amount of Black and brown folks who are plucked out of their communities because they're easy pickings, meaning that the injustice system. I can't even say justice system. It doesn't even come out right. The injustice system is predicated upon finance. So if you were poor, or you know, you live in a poor community where there's poor education, poor teachers, you know, poor food, poor everything, you are not going to have the ability to become free from the jaws of injustice. So what ends up happening is you have brothers who say, "Hey, I'm innocent." You know, families they put everything. People have lost their homes fighting for the innocence of loved ones, and fish fries, and you know, dinners, and doing all kinds of fundraising efforts in an attempt to get their family members free. And now you have the court who says, you know, the Supreme Court at that, who now makes it okay for states to hold on to these people and to further deprive them of their civil, liberties to be, relatively free. So, it's like this cruel and heartless position shows a will to protect a failed institution over making something that's wrong right. In addition, I think it makes it harder for the accused across the country to prevail on claims that they received ineffective counsel at the state court level and post conviction hearings.
So money is definitely, as always, a huge factor, right?
Right.
But now, in examining this whole doc and sort of putting it back to the people to say, hey, this is something that we are absolutely not paying attention to, and it needs our attention, essentially.
Right.
Was your journey in the development of this documentary, were you met with a lot of doors slamming in your face? Were people very hesitant to jump on board to help you along?
Well, no, because this film is very indictful. I want to say I don't believe in doing weak documentaries. When I call weak documentaries, that pretends to be balanced in the sense that let's hear what the other side has to say. Right. The other side controls everything. The mainstream media, they get their narratives out 24/7, all the time. So I don't want to waste, I think, the people's time, or to give any more time to the lies and the deception. So my film, believe it or not, and the folks who have participated in this film are willing, because they understand that they're going to get their stories out, and it's not going to be marginalized or discounted by presenting this so-called other view as if it's legitimate. We all know what it is. We know that this system was not designed to empower us. So, I think it would be an insult to even the intelligence of my audience to now say, well, let's hear what the other side has to say. When, we know what they're saying, that Black people are inherently criminal. They are always saying that Black people are undeserving of justice. They are always saying that Black people are guilty until proven innocent. We see that in a way. I mean, I just saw the report on the guy, the mentally ill brother who was shot. It's like now they're going for numbers. It's like a competition between states to see who can put more bullets in Black men. But the news says, he had a history. They do the same thing, as opposed to saying, wait a minute, this was a person who was mentally ill, who was gunned down and shot over, 11 billion times. It's just, it's ridiculous. I don't even, and I had a researcher research and saying how many times was a grizzly bear, like an animal who was attacking someone, shot. And there's no animal on earth outside of Black people who've been shot that many times. And the other brother who was shot at like something like 90 times, and he was hit 60 plus times. But when it's presented like, well, he had to have done something that made him worthy of getting. And no, I don't care if you robbed the bank. I mean, matter of fact, we just saw a man just gun down innocent people at a parade, and he was taken without even getting a boo-boo. You know, he didn't get a scratch. He was taken alive. So to me, it would be an insult to the community to say, let's hear what the other people have to say. They're always talking to us all the time because they own the media, they own the major movie houses. They get to say whatever it is that they want to say, and they enforce the narrative that Black people, particularly Black men, are worthy of the treatment that they are getting. My film won't do that. I don't play that. I will never play that. You're going to be hearing from the people and the families and the community of folks who miss these folks who are incarcerated.
Now, there's something in what you just said that I want to sort of ask you. And this is a very touchy subject because we're going to talk about people that we love, people that are family, people that are friends. The narrative that is constantly being played out in this country is people of color, Black people specifically, are inherently violent, criminal, so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Now you look out into the world, and I'm sure you have a diverse group of family and friends, as I do. And there's people that are, we're working class people, and some of us end up working for the city, so on and so forth. But I constantly hear a myriad of reasons from these same people that I know and love about how, well, they shouldn't have been doing this, and they shouldn't have been doing. But it's always that way when we're speaking about our own. So how does one break that wall because it's ignorance?
Well, you know what? It's not only ignorance. They are programmed. You notice that you could talk to 20 different people who live in 20 different places and they say the same exact thing. Where they're getting this idea, they get it from media. It dovetails into the previous question of why I won't so-called interview other folks who have an opposing position, because you hear that all the time. That's why they say things. Well, if only he would have obeyed. What happened to the brother who was shot in front of his wife and kid? And he actually said, hey, I do have a firearm, but I also have a permit. And he was gunned down. And he had no criminal record. Yeah, exactly. So, you can have a three-piece suit. I mean, you could, and this is what, when people say these things, I ask them, where do you get this idea that a person who was gunned down, you can see, like, it's now, so it's hilarious because it's like now you can't even trust your lying eyes. You could see what happened, but yet and still talk about, well, maybe if he would have, and you have all these weird and bizarre justifications because it's so powerful. Mainstream is so powerful. The media is such a powerful tool that you almost say this by rote, like, what did he do? If only they would have complied. If only this, that. You make all these silly justifications, but meanwhile, a person has lost their life, life, and they know they can't go to graduations, they can't get married, they won't know love, and even if they suffer from a mental condition, they won't heal from that mental condition because they're gone.
Yes, sir. It's amazing to me because, as you said, you'll talk to 20 different people from 20 different places around the country, but they'll all have the same answer. Right. And the constant barrage and repetitive story that you hear about gangs, about Chicago, about single mother homes, so on and so forth, it's tiring because you keep telling us the same narrative, but yet in all, we keep seeing with our own eyes the same response for the most petty reasons. The brother who was killed on Staten Island was selling cigarettes. Oh, that's your answer to that? What are these cops fighting? Like, was this Cancer Awareness Month that these guys were so hopped up?
Right.
And the reason I'm saying that is because the impact that this film should have, I think, is going to escape people, right? But at the same time, it's the very reason why I brought you here, so you can sort of explain to people, like, listen, this thing is real. And it doesn't matter if you think you're outside, as you said before, it doesn't matter if you had a three-piece suit on. And you can see that amongst our people, because there's people that look just like you and me that are, and I'm going to call it what I call it, is caping for this other group of people that run the system that we live under.
Right.
Telling us it's our culture. When was death a part of our culture?
Right.
I don't understand that. Like, where do you get this from? Oh, you got that from somebody else.
Exactly. And we have to keep in mind that, you know, prison is a business, and that, you know, it's the new form of slavery. Slavery has not gone anywhere. I think there's a movie called 13. Really, really good documentary.
Amazing.
One of the better ones. That really talks about, how, you know, we are viewed, the rights that we have, and the rights that we so-called, and the privileges that, you know, we so-called have, and how they are taken away. And folks, I also would say I'm very careful about talking about freedom in the context that a lot of people who have to work day in and day out, if they want to live in a decent community and they want to live, where they can send their kid to a decent school, and, you know, the dollar doesn't do what it used to do. Back in the day, it's almost meaningless. You know, you no longer have like the 99-cent stores anymore. They're all the $1.50 stores. $1.25. You know, so it's no more. Dollar Tree has to change its name to, you know, a $1.25 tree. You know, I mean, just the dollar just doesn't do, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. You know, the access to food. We're already talking about a shortage of baby formula and yes, other things. The price of gas. So, you know, there's and this is at the same time, if you think about this for a moment, that a lot of these corporations are making record profits. What's going on here? You know, and so, you know, it's time that people wake up, and people are. You know, I think people won't be as resistant to this film or the direction of this film or the energy of this film, because a lot of folks, to be quite frank, are talking about it. Maybe not in that space of what I call fake stream media, but people are tuning into your show. They're tuning into shows like the Colored Only Cafe, which is a show that I do with Dr. Ron Christopher Osborne every Monday between 9 and 11. And Therapy Thursdays. There's so many other Dr. Boyce Watkins. I listen to this guy Papa Duck all the time. There are other and alternative spaces and voices, and now you see how they are now attacking those voices with, you know, shadow banning, or, you know, it's a lot of difficulty to get access to the content, or they shut them down when they want to have certain conversations, and we have to come up with new and different and innovative language because of the social media police. So yeah, you know, there is a lot of serious attempts at stopping the dialogue and stopping folks from even having a conversation in the so-called free society. But people are having a conversation because they're saying, wait a minute, this is just not adding up. This doesn't even sound right. Doesn't seem right. And a lot of folks are preparing for, for what's coming. And so, you know, having platforms like yours is so important. It really is a gem. And so when, I talk to folks who have social media and they talk about numbers, I say, look, it's not always about the quantity. It's also the quality of people who are listening, and stay consistent and ride steady in the buggy, and you will make it all the way. Folks are, it's something about the truth. It's something about the power of when you hear something that rings true. It resonates with folks, and people actually gravitate, you know, towards it. But there's just so much noise. And the noise is always sometimes louder. You know, the mind poison, comes through this fake stream media that is just so powerful. You see it all the time that you think it's normal to deny your own oppression. You know, when you're feeling it. You know, so. But it is because of these alternative voices. It's because of folks. Like the MX Network and Deshaun Farad and Milton Adamati and so many other folks who I know are doing a lot of things in the spaces of social media. And their numbers are growing exponentially, and it's a reason for it. People are sick of turning to one news station and they're saying the same thing You could turn to 2, 4, 7, ABC, NBC, all of them, and it's almost like you won't miss any of the stories because they're saying and repeating the same narrative. And so, but meanwhile, people are saying, "Wait, but I don't feel like they're talking about, what's up with these gas prices, or in a way where it's." I saw one news and I started laughing because it's not even news. It's almost like it's not even entertainment. It's a comedy show when they're talking about the increase in gas and talking about certain folks who are going to give a 10 and 15 cent discount when it has increased $3 and $4
without reason.
Yeah,
just because.
You're right, and no city is burning down. People aren't protesting because they look on the news and everybody seems to be talking about how good it is, and so people feel like, oh well, I guess I'll pay it. And guess what? They will. It can go up to $25 and they will pay it.
Yeah,
because no one is talking about resisting, and as long as you don't have those voices, people won't know what to do. So I'm very proud of what we're doing here with Iron Metropolis Films, which is the parent company of GoPro, and also doing this film and bold enough to do this film, Disappearing Freedom, the Decline of Justice, because no other film company, I think, would have the gall to really speak truth to power, because we live in a world of lies.
Oof. And it's funny that you ended it with that, because the reality is when you speak about what's being consumed, the nonsense and the noise is what's being consumed. And people in this country love being lied to. They just absolutely do. If I posted 2 links and I said, there's this new study that's curing, sickle cell anemia and so on and so forth, and I posted another link, Ray J and Kim K's third sex tape has been found. Which link do you think is going to get the most hits? And people absolutely do not care about good content. They do not. They want a 3-minute clip. They want a soundbite. They want to be entertained with the nonsense of the world and twerk videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think that we're at a point where, if you look out into the world, look what's happening in Sri Lanka. We're talking about 100,000 plus people running up in the leader of their country's palace.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sneaking off, leaving the country.
Right.
Because of the condition that he's put them in.
Right.
And right now, we have such a division in this country, right, that people don't realize that they have perfectly pitted all of us against each other, which I don't understand how people don't see. Racism, let me tell you something. Racism is a real thing. But for me, looking at where we're at now, to me, it's the oldest play in the book that gave rise to somebody like Trump perfectly, because the game was getting old. People were like, yeah, racism for us, we're not with that no more. Look out into the world. Look at the numbers. Look at people. Look at what dominates.
Mm-hmm.
You got mixed children everywhere, right? But since people are drinking that water and, hey, this is just the way it is, you still have those people in the world.
Well, let me say this to this, because you're making a very important point about racism, and I think about this very important quote by Michael Eric Dyson. Michael Eric Dyson said, racism is the language in which classism speaks. So racism at one hand is actually, it's real, and people have to deal with it, and we should confront that. We shouldn't act like racism does not exist in kumbaya, because what that does is silence people who are legitimately harmed by the device in which classism speaks. Because racism, I agree with you, it is a false construct, but the reality is when white men see black men and gun them down, there is something that is going on in their heads. It's part of a culture, and it's part of a system. So I think we want to be very, at least, I want to be mindful, because I would love to live in a world. I agree with you where, just, everybody, just, getting along, but it is not black people who are attacking white people, so it's very, to me, to be in a sense, neutralize or taking a position of race neutrality is actually anti-black when you see something is going on to a particular group. As if I was, and I put it in this context of what if you and I went into a room where women were being attacked, and we said, well, can't we all just get along, right? Or can't we all just, can't this is a false construct that women are undeserving of opportunities, or at least to have a equal opportunity to do certain things, and then we say if we all just get along, it kind of denotes the fact that there are discriminatory practices. There's a culture, there's an attitude that will attempt to keep women out of certain places. And I use that because people can kind of wrap their heads around what I'm saying, because you are 100% correct when you talk about the false construct of race and racial identity and all this other kind of thing. But how it's used in our society and how it impacts us, it's very important that we are all equally engaged. And you have other voices saying that this group being attacked just because of their color is wrong, and white people need to be checked on that, and check other white folks about their racism as well. So we have to, if we're going to have this inclusive kind of mentality and mindset or approach towards how do we heal, not only as a country but as a world, because racism is global now.
Everywhere
you have people bleaching their skin, because they understand that they're treated differently, even within their own families, if their skin is fairer or lighter or whatever the case might be. So how do we realistically reverse that? And I submit we don't reverse that by ignoring that.
No, by no stretch. I don't know exactly where I put my comment that gave that off. But by no, and the correction is well taken. By no stretch of the imagination, because the racism is part of the reason why this system thrives. Period.
Right.
There's no way around that, and there's no magic wand for anybody to be kumbaya, because men are men, and I say that respectfully to the ladies, because ladies aren't where they really, women, not to be sexist, and I'm not being sexist, women are not in their proper place in our lives. And I don't mean barefoot in the kitchen, but men are men, and they are weak, and they are arrogant, and they are aggressive, and they are conquerors. So we're always going to have conflict. But the fact of the matter is that this is something, if it wasn't in our DNA, this system wouldn't work. The people who are in power wouldn't be in power, because you need that division. However, we can't turn around and go, boop, all right, it's over. I think I'm speaking more to the fact that people are starting to recognize more and more that this is a reality. And you can see the evidence of the pushback, the hard pushback, which is why I said it gave rise to somebody like Trump. It was perfect for him, because when you seen Trump come along, he said, hey, you forgot about this? You think that this is not real anymore? All right, let me press this button. Here we go. And all of these cave dwellers, these knuckle dragging troglodytes came crawling out of the woodwork. And look, it became mainstream and fashionable. Go back to your country. Speak English. I want my country back. All this rhetoric, right? So now I have a question, because again, we were speaking about working class Black and Latinos, Black and brown people, and how their access sort of skews their view of society. What do you say? I'm going to give you a rough example. What do you say to the brown brother who lives in the suburbs, who has his own business and is a conservative, and he is of the mindset, make better choices? What about the gangs? What about, how do you reach a person through this vehicle of film to make him understand that we're living in this system that is predicated on our downfall? Like, how do you get that across to this person?
Well, what I do is through art. Art is a very powerful tool. And then what I don't do usually, typically, is disagree with that, because first of all, everybody agrees. I don't think there's one person who say I disagree with us being more accountable for our actions. I would agree. I've had people say, Tylon, what about accountability? That sounds good to me. But but then I also say at the same time, I asked them a question. I said, what about reparations? What about this country, the system being accountable and apologizing for what it has done in terms of, the rape camps and the human trafficking of black and brown, the stolen land.
Cannibalism.
So exactly. So, I think, when you want to provide context for people, when they have these arguments, or they're supposed to be arguments, if somebody said, what about accountability? And I'd agree with that. What about people, having more loving and, substantial families? I would agree with that. And I would also ask the questions, what's being done to repair and to heal people who have been, discounted and marginalized, people who have been affected. And this is science too, that is in our DNA. Some of the legacy of the impact of folks who were enslaved. You're talking about rape camps where little boys were being raped, little girls, fathers had to sleep with daughters, and men had to sleep with their sisters and their mothers because you were treated like an animal, and all of this, dysfunction comes from somewhere, and we haven't yet been even debriefed about, the legacy. So I'm saying, okay, if we want to talk about accountability, men being responsible, why not have that broader conversation in the context in which people are denied access? We all know that if you live in a poor community, your school is going to be poor. Malcolm X said it, right? He said it best. I mean, we have so many great people who have, laid down the foundation for our responses to people who think like this. They think in a limited framework because what it does, it makes them feel better about their apathy or their inability to be engaged and active, because it's always about what will I have to give up. And people are mostly, unfortunately, a lot of folks are comfort corrupt. I could be in that category. I'd rather do other stuff and do films about, science fiction. I love speculative fiction, and I follow Cherie Thomas, who's an excellent sci-fi. I would love to turn and interpret a lot of her work into visual language, into movies. But this is happening. This is like a reality, and do I want to do this type of film right now versus A Disappearing Freedom, The Decline of Justice? I pick Disappearing Freedom because it's urgent. There's someone right now, one gentleman I know, Terrence Rice, who has spent 31 years in prison. He hasn't murdered anybody. There's murderers, people who have, the guy who shot at the president in front of everybody, Ronald Reagan, is now a completely free person. He doesn't have to go to school. He's not in on probation or anything. And here's
he was released.
Yeah, he's released. He's walking around. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So you see the disparity there, when here's a man who did not kill anyone. The police concocted this elaborate story of him shooting at all the police. Nobody got a scratch or anything like that. But it happened at the time where everybody wanted to have this get tough on crime kind of thing. And he spent now it's 32 years in prison.
Well, we know that when we hear the rhetoric and the slogans of getting tough on crime, and I'm a law enforcing person,
law and order guy.
Law and order guy. There you go. I tell you, man, this medical thing messed me up. But when we hear that, as you referred to Malcolm laying the groundwork for us to understand and how to combat these things, we know this isn't something new to us. It doesn't fall short. It falls exactly where it needs to when we understand that language. Right. But I think my overall arching point is, how do we communicate the message to break through? Because working class Black and brown people, I would have to say a majority of them have this mindset of it's like you said, accountability. It's like we're always being the ones left holding the bag. You got all the guns, you got the unions, you got the DA, you got the judge, you got the, I mean, what are we up against? You're talking about people that come, we're not affluent. You know, if let me tell you something. If brothers who were dealing drugs in the 80s were insulated the way politicians were and had, you know, these huge law firms like Simpson Thacher and Skadden Arps and all these places, and I'm not trying to get sued, I'm just saying, and they had their money in a legal fund to defend them when they were yanked off by these police, what kind of picture would we be looking at, right? You know, and today I saw a clip of the ex-bozo saying that we should have the death penalty for drug dealers. Well, what about the people that were dealing, you know, Xanax and all these, you understand what I'm saying? Like, is it going to fall on them as well?
Or Oliver North. Let's go deeper. How about when they flooded the real drug dealers are the ones who fled the community with these, you know, with these drugs. I mean, we didn't have all of this turmoil in our community. And, you know, we talk about the legacy of slavery, but you could talk about recent history, the bombing of Philadelphia, you know, with the MOVE people, you know, Black Wall Street. I mean, as a matter of fact, what's his the brother who's now going after the woman who accused Emmett Till
she should be in jail.
Yeah, should be. So, you know, people are starting to wake up. People are starting to realize, wait a minute now, you know, the game has been played. And, you know, we have to be very careful that, you know, yes, there's going to be people who, no matter what you say, they're going to, you got that cognitive dissonance going. They, you know, it's like, no, I'm right. And all that other kind of stuff. But there's other folks who are starting to feel it now, especially when they're paying, you know, they're filling their tank up. It costs $100. You know, when it used to be like 25, 30, maybe 40. Now they're paying, you know, double, almost triple that. People can't find formula. People can't find food. You're spending $300 and $400 and leaving the store with 3 or 4 bags when, you know, that used to be 10 and 20 bags of groceries and you were set for the month. You're realizing that what you used to spend monthly, you're spending weekly on food. So I think to some level, this uncomfortable feeling that, you know, wait a minute, I used to think being a 3-figure dude was something. And now you realize having 3 figures, you're poor again. You know, so, you know, so the issues of, so I think when the more uncomfortable people are made to feel by the system, people start to ask more questions, because I think once again, you know, we're creatures of comfort, and you could be in a prison, but as long as you have your iPhone and a nice TV and you can watch your shows, it won't feel so much like a prison.
Well, the sad thing about that, and I want everybody listening to understand something. I understand that when you commit a crime, you're supposed to go to jail and pay penance for what you did. I'm all for that. But what you have to understand is that these people come back into society, right? And if you don't want people to be career criminals, there has to be some form of correction. And when I say correction, I don't mean beatings by the guards to make them understand that they don't want to go back to jail, right? What I'm talking about is finding the person, because often when I have discussions with my friends or acquaintances that I know who are working people who may have retired or whatever the case may be, or are still in the working, you know, field, they have this thing about to hell with them. And if you look into the system now, the way it works, they've taken out books, they've taken out education, they've taken out everything to sort of reach the human, to change them, to make them understand that, hey, listen, when you get out, there's a possibility that you can go back and have a productive life. Hell, what do these prisoners have to look forward to? And then we're talking about people who've been wrongfully convicted that nobody seems to care about.
Right.
So they can't be repaired. These brothers who do deserve to be in jail, or sisters that do deserve to be in jail, they're not getting any help or counseling. They're not developing their minds to change their mindset. What all we're doing is recycling, right? So just imagine being incarcerated for 20, 30 plus years for something that you did not do. Where is the state's attempt to remedy that issue?
Well, let's be clear. The state has no interest in remedying the issue. It's a business. like I said earlier, they don't want. They'll release somebody who they know is a repeat offender just so that he can go out and do more crime, and so that the people in the community say, we need more cops, we need more judges, we need to build more jails. Jails are a huge business. I bet you if you de-incentivied, meaning like, we talk about defund the police, defund the prison system, you won't have over incarceration, because that's another issue. That's another film. My film is about the wrongfully convicted, but there needs to be other films about the people who are over incarcerated, people who, may commit a crime, and then all of a sudden the judge gives them, I want to make an example, 25, 30. They know what they're doing. They do this all day, every day. Their father is the judge, their cousin is the bailiff, their sister and daughters is the stenographer. But we come in, just go to any courthouse. I'm in the Bronx. You go to the Bronx courthouse in the morning. You see all the white folks going through the door without the metal detector. And then you see a long line around the block, 9 o'clock in the morning. Go. Nothing but black and brown people who you can tell are not some of the richest people in the world. But all the lawyers, all the other folks, it's in your face. But you don't pay attention, or you're denying it because fake stream media doesn't cover it. They don't talk about it. So you kind of, in a sense, are in a state like, oh, well, some of these folks deserve it. If the reality is, you know what, you probably would not need maybe, but probably one prison if it was really about, I'm talking about hardened criminals. A lot of people are doing things because they don't have the kind of access. They don't have the resources. They don't have the education. Education is a key component of there's a correlation between people who commit crimes and the level of literacy, and then also, once again, not only a literacy factor, because you have people with PhDs working at McDonald's, but it's also the access to gainful and meaningful employment. So at this time where a guy says, hey man, my baby's hungry, my woman, she sees all her friends getting bank and stuff like that, I'm going to do this hustle. You see what I'm saying? So, they deindustrialized the schools. I remember going to school, and I know you do too, where, we had, wood shop, automotive. They had a whole car in the middle of the classroom. So you knew you had skills after you left high school that you can actually start a family and make money. You could build things. Now the quality of education is trash. You have some people with degrees, they get out, they have no skills that can pay bills. People who don't know how to plant food, all these basic things, or even manage money, or even have money literacy. A lot of times, a lot of folks who do get access to some funds, they lose it because nobody ever told them how to handle money.
It's funny that you say that. I'm sorry to cut you off. I was just in the store a few hours ago, and I saw a young man struggling to count change. Literally couldn't. This kid must have been like 15. Couldn't count change. These kids don't write cursive, and it's amazing that you brought this point back around, because there is no shop. There, all that stuff that you spoke about in school. There's no skills to pay the bills. Go overseas. Mm-hmm. You'll find all the computer programmers. Engineers. You'll find them all. And kids are. I was talking to a friend of mine who's in IT. Salute to Miss Lou Dubois, the big sis, man. She's a wonderful person. She works in IT, and she was telling me, she said, you know what, Ernest, overseas there are kids that start learning code at the age as young as 7 or 8 years old.
That's right.
Now, with this country being so media driven, mm-hmm. and computers being it's taken over, you would think that this would be a mainstay for our kids. You know how much those programming jobs pay bank? Mm-hmm. Why aren't we taking up a big space in there?
Right. It's like what you said, that the disparity happens on all levels, and it just doesn't happen in prison. Prison is like the end result. That's the bag, that's the catch bag. But there are many roads that lead to that. And what you said, not access to these kinds of programs, access to after school, access to STEM, where they can actually get introduced to a lot of this information that could keep them from these difficult spaces like probation, incarceration, and just the whole system that was designed to destroy them in the first place. We are commodity. I'm going back to that. We still are today. So no one sees any value in blackness, and being a black man in particular. We are under attack. We've been under attack. And, you could talk about, and, as soon as you see somebody that gets arrested and they have it, I'm innocent and I'm innocent. Okay. You are guilty until proven innocent. And if you've been in front of a court, you've been in front of a judge, you know what it's like. I've been in front of a judge. If you're a black man, you've been in front of a judge at some point, whether it was civil court, criminal court, family court. And we know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. What I'm saying is not shocking.
Right.
What's shocking is that I'm saying it out loud.
Very loudly. And it's funny because when you brought up the courthouse in the Bronx, I was gonna say I've been on that line before. Full disclosure, I've been on that line before.
Yeah, because they got so many I gotchas, fear beating, like all this little silly stuff, and you got to take a day off of work. Whatever it is. But there is no real justice for us, and it's not happenstance. It's by design. This entire system was how it was set up from the very beginning. You had people talking about freedom and they had slaves. The system, it has inherent contradictions that need to be dealt with, or you'll see the demise of it. You're starting to see the system unravel and erode. You're starting to see now with LGBTQ issues and over other issues, and how they pit those issues over women's issues. You have now the trans fighting the gays. Yeah, gay and trans. You have what Macy Gray make a comment, and everybody's in uproar. So we have all these different groups, and they're just being manipulated. Like you said, you were clear and you were right. People are pitted against each other so that this 1% of 1% can keep on laughing and giggling. They're laughing at us. We are a joke. No, they laughing because we're too busy fighting each other than saying, wait a minute, it is the system. And these are the people who are controlling the system, are the people who are not affected by it one way or the other. They weren't affected by COVID. People were making incredible amounts of profit during COVID. Wow, but people lost their businesses and lost their homes, lost their livelihoods, lost their relatives, right? And other people are living their best lives. How does this happen?
The system is set up to work for itself.
Right.
It's even in the two-party system. They feed off each other. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not for either party. As much as Democrats want to say, oh, they're the people. No, the hell you're not. Okay.
I have a thing. Democrats are really the new Republicans. Really, if you think about it. And the Republicans are the party of fanatics.
Yep.
Right. And they but the people, what about the legitimate voice of the people? Most people are really concerned about the quality of life. And it's going to the dogs, and it's going to the dogs by design. They want people to see crime. They want people to see the poor and the homeless. So now you just keep on working.
Yep.
You don't care. Your boss can suck. You having this dysfunctional relationship with your wife and family and stuff because you're not there. Because now you got this. You got a side hustle. Before you come home, you're doing Uber, Lyft. Yeah, I know what it is. Because I'm telling you, if you want to live a certain kind of way, you got to get on that plantation and work longer hours, and spend very little time. Before you know it, your kids are all grown, looking weird, saying weird stuff because they were raised on MTV and all this other kind of stuff and the Kardashians. And then now, it's like, your retirement is not there. You say, well, at least I got this money. No, it's not there. And if you had a little nest egg, you get sick. That's gone.
Yep.
So the reality that's why we have to come together. And I think that ultimately, when you see this film and you check out, Disappearing Freedom Declines, people will start to make the connection that could be you. We have a problem with empathizing and connecting, particularly with Black and brown men. And once we change that paradigm, you will see a shift in communities. You'll start seeing that the important resources, you talk about, there's no men where they are, they're in prison. A lot of them are locked up. Where's your husband? Where's your protector? And when you remove men from the household, which they did economically, and now they're doing literally through coming out community, you lose the protection of the wife. The wife doesn't have a protector, somebody who can bring resources into the community. The wife and the children are unprotected.
All these items that you're pointing to have been adding up in my mind, because there's this question that I've been wanting to ask you, and I meant to ask you earlier, but right now with the way the conversation is, it goes perfectly into this moment. So how do you see poverty playing into the outcomes for us that result in our incarceration? Is poverty just a byproduct, or is poverty the vehicle in which we land ourselves in these spaces?
Well, we've always been, Black folks have always had position and not power. And it's so funny how we have these little slogans like "get rich or die trying." We have this mantra, this mindset of, money over everything else. People, you could screw over your friends. It doesn't matter as long as you so-called get ahead. But you never found a U-Haul behind the hearse. I got that line from Chuck D. And it's so true. It's so true that we're in this, like, what you call it, that little hamster wheel. You see people, I'm grinding. I'm on my grind, son. I'm doing this, that, and the other. I'm grinding towards what what's your aim and goal at the end of the day? Like, you're gonna look good. But can you sleep good at night, or have you improved upon something? Have you made something better for society? Do you, I keep telling us that our legacy are our children and our future, and if we're not doing enough to secure that by changing the dialogue that we have, the conversations we have with our art. I'm talking about music, where this, where generation, trap music of kill and, let's see how many bodies you can, talk about on your record. And, I'm be a super large thug I kill your mother with a number 2 pencil. Just the crazy, outrageous stuff that, death is celebrated in music and our culture. As long as we have that kind of stuff, that mindset and this mentality of just, get stuff, then trying to grow stuff and trying to be better human beings. That's the fight. That to me is the where we are, and why films and podcasts and this alternative media space is so crucial. That's why I tell people to keep on. Don't worry about, I put, I don't have the numbers that this person who's doing silly stuff, but silly stuff is anywhere and everywhere. Everybody can do that and get that. But when you have content that people can actually learn something, people can actually grow, people can actually be edified. There is a difference. People do like candy, and I like candy. You could tell, right? People do like sweets, but how do you really grow and get strong is through having substance. And that's what your show is about, and so many other people who are doing these kinds of alternative, what I call like alternative, like media spaces where you're hearing the things that you don't normally hear. That's the food. That's the nourishment. That's the mental nourishment that you leave with when you listen to the set, or you listen to the Colored Only Cafe. So you feel better. You feel a little bit more edified. And then, if not for anything else, you feel like you're not alone. Because a lot of people, they feel this and they sense it. But when you hear sometimes other people say it, you feel valid. You feel validated in what you're feeling. You're saying, wow, it's not me that's just feeling like I'm working and working and working, and it's not working. That there's something wrong with this system, that there's something imbalance. So when you have folks who are speaking this truth to power, I say just keep on doing it. Don't worry about the numbers; they will come. Because one thing about greed is there's, it's like an endless well. It'll keep on, eating and devouring everything in its way. And we have to understand that there has to be another way, and there has to be a better way. And if the people get together, we can do that. We can really do that. We don't need this system. All we need is each other, and we need to just change that mindset of what wealth and power is. Focus on our young people, our children. That's the future, and all this other kind of stuff. People see it for what it's worth. And trust me, I'm not for censorship. I want Cardi B kind of stuff. I want to watch that when we watch. I used to watch. I used to listen to Richard Pryor in my friend's basement. But now it's like now we got to listen to like Malcolm X and all this other kind of stuff in the basement because all the salacious and silly stuff is now mainstream, and it's a reason for it. And because the system is not interested in analytical, critical thinking, population that will figure it out and resist. Because once you figure it out, that's the first step to resistance. Because we have to really resist this system that is just run amok. Like I said, just look at how many billionaires there are.
Ooh, growing daily.
And look at now the growing numbers of people who can't make ends meet, who can't even afford to drive to work.
It's funny because whenever I've had conversations with people about the disparity between the wealthiest of the wealthy and how quickly they've gotten there, and I don't mean quickly like whatever overnight they it's been a stretch, but if you look at the laws and the actions taken by the government to enable these people to shelter money and move money and avoid paying taxes and so on and so forth, man. We're carrying the burden, and people will say, "Oh, they worked hard. They deserve all that." And I'm like, no. Everybody works hard, damn it.
Yeah. Some of the hardest working people in Africa who have to walk miles, 4 o'clock in the morning to get water that they're going to use all day, and they got to carry everything on the top of their head. They sweat all day. They don't have any AC. They eat very little, and they So if it was really about hard work.
Shit,
Africa would be the richest, and it is in fact the richest. But just to show you about capitalism and imperialism, the people that are there, where the gold has been under their feet, and vanadium, and all the other kind of minerals, and they're some of the poorest people. Some, and it's because of what capitalism and imperialism has brought. So we have to think about this system, think about it long and hard, and think about the fact that you can go in some place and get some sneakers for $400 and $500 or whatever, and they were made in some sweatshop for pennies.
For 20%.
So it's like
in order for the system to work, you got to buy in, and that's what people have done over the last. They've become more invested. I would say that they've become even more invested in what this structure is.
Well, I'm gonna say, hey, it's like a casino. You ever go to a casino? You've been to a casino, right?
Yeah.
And when you go and you hear all these bells going on, right? Like people are winning, right? You hear the machines, they have it. And then it's bright lights. You got all these lights. You got the nice ladies carrying liquor. You say, wow, this is really nice. But it's rigged. Mm-hmm. It's against you. At the end of the day, how they have it set up is so that you feel like you can win. Mm-hmm. You feel like you can play. So America is it's a huge casino. They keep showing you, look at these people. The fact that you can only point to Oprah, the fact that you can only point to a handful of people should tell you that the odds of you winning, But there's more and more millionaires. Yeah, but to be a millionaire now, that's middle class. There's no prestige to that anymore. I got a couple of million. Oh, yeah. Remember what's this guy with he's always talking about the 3-6 figure, whatever. That's out the window. You have one little setback or something goes on in your life. Now you're struggling again. So they keep moving the bar. They keep having more and more people play, and more and more people talk about. You ever see even on the commercials, everybody's doing so well. So it's like it must be me because the commercial, everybody's smiling, but everybody's smiling, but they all on drugs. It's like some drug pharmaceutical company. But everybody's good, but they high, legally, right? so it's like it's crazy, but it's hilarious how they manipulate these images in a way to make people feel engaged. That yes, you can, and you might be a nigga, but you're a good looking nigga. You're better. You ain't those niggas because you got on these shoes or you got on this hat. You ain't like this group because but it's a game that's being played, but it's been effective, but I think it's wearing thin because people are starting to share ideas in these kinds of spaces, and people are starting to think about it.
I think that you just made me realize something very striking. You made me realize something very striking.
Mm-hmm.
In my building, there is about 80, I would say about 80 tenants, right? Not counting children. Let's say that. And out of those 80 tenants, there is absolutely not one person of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about people who are six-figure types,
right?
And some of them have had this money. You know, there's some people with old money, some with new money, what have you. But it's amazing to me, to your point of how, like, if it's so easy and it's so attainable, then let's look at the percentages of people that look like us that are actually in those brackets, right? There's very few, and things, it's a different situation because you're distracted by, as you said, with the analogy that you gave of being in a casino. You get caught up in all the bells and whistles and all the music going off that you're like, oh, this place is great. Or the argument is also almost always offered, well, where's better? It's not a point of where's better, is that this system needs to change because it's not fair for everyone. And why somebody like yourself would have to make a film of this magnitude in this vein, telling this story. Because if it was fair and all things were fair and equal, why are we facing the brunt of punishment for some things that are just wrong, minute, or just downright illegal? Why are we always getting that boot?
Right. I think people understand, like, right is right. You know, I mean, there's no disagreement. That has nothing to do with color. But people make these weirdo justifications because they're getting something. You know, when people feel like, you know, they're getting something that they might have to give up, that's when you start getting into the so-called gray area. There's no real gray. You know what's right. You know, people will say, well, you know, it becomes like what you call an inconvenient truth, you know, about the disparity. You know, and as long as it feels like it's not affecting me, you know, it's affecting women, so I don't have to be involved. But then but then there's no women to come when it's your situation. So what they do is they have so they, you know, they put everybody in their little groups and say, well, you know, this is LGBTQ and I, whatever, and numbers. It's that issue. You know, then it's the black issue. And, you know, then there's these women issues and Roe v. Wade, and so everybody is in their little lane and pocket and feel like that doesn't affect me, but they don't recognize that this is all coming from one place, and if we got together, we can hold this 1% accountable. Like you know, and what kind of mixoplix world, upside down world that we live in, that, you know, it's totally okay for somebody to go up to the gas station and pay $5 or $6 a gallon, and nobody's in jail. No one's there's no investigation. There's no, you know, it's like, this is a scandal that's happening right in front of your face that you're affecting, but no one is saying somebody should go to jail about this. Somebody, but it's legal. Like, how is this legal? Exactly. How did this get legal? You know, how is this right that somebody's in my pocket? You know, and you know, I now have to make these decisions of medicine, or you know, or you know, how do I get to work, or not eat, or, you know, get worse, or be able to buy food that is harmful because it's affordable, you know? And that's what it is. But once people are starting to make these kinds of choices and decisions and realize that they have a lot more skin in the game than they think, and once people are made uncomfortable, and that's what's happening, that's what's going to happen, like almost like overnight, real soon, especially now with all the cows, and there's going to be a real shortage of food. And remember, I said a lot of people think I'm crazy. Oh, it's a conspiracy. No, it's a fact. You can look at all these food places that have been destroyed, all of the mysterious planes burning down, and all this other kind of stuff. You think that that's not going to impact on the access to food and the affordability of some of the foods that, you know, you're used to getting. I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna be in for a rude awakening. So we have to now come together. This is just a call for people to say, let's get out of our boxes. Let's stop thinking that, you know, our stuff don't stink, and, you know, and let's come together as a family and say, yeah, there is a better way to do these things. That these politicians are weak as water. They're not going to serve our interests. we have to almost come up with a new system, a new way of doing things that is more equitable, that is fair, that lets us, live in some form of balance, because right now we're totally out of balance. So, my film pointing out the disparities in with the wrongfully convicted. There's people who are also dealing with the over incarceration. There's people who are dealing with films that deals with the brutality and the murder of people. These are things that people want to, I think, see more and hear more and listen to more. And because you're not getting it from fake stream media, is not. The news is entertainment. It's almost laughable. Even how they present certain things that you are seeing. You're seeing somebody get gunned down 60 times, and the narrative is, his criminal background. It's like, so that means he deserves to die,
Exactly.
Get shot down like a dog. Not even a dog. If you shoot a dog 60 times, can you imagine the outrage?
This country will be on fire.
Exactly. A dog shot 60 times. Just change that. A dog shot 60 times. He bit a police officer and they shot him 60 times.
Wow. Listen, man, people have lost their way completely. It's just a reality. And, TV is just a bunch of dead images that are moving real fast. And I think when people start to really, we spoke about accountability at one point. When people start actually holding themselves to account, I think they'll start to recognize what's going on around them. And by that time, I think it's going to be too late, because the system plans long game, always has. And when these things drop and there's no reaction like we're seeing right now, people should be in the fucking street right now, nonstop. And I said this pre-COVID. The only way things are going to change is if everybody said, you know what? We're not going to work. We're not doing anything. Nothing's moving until you guys leave. You got to get out. You guys only serve yourselves and the other wealthy of this country. You love playing these games with your money. You love depriving us of things. That's the only way things are going to change. And I said this way before COVID. And what happened? They pulled it on us. And that's when I was getting inbox. Yo, what's going on? Oh, you guys never thought about conspiracy before, when our communities were being ravaged by conspiracies, and they make films about them. But now you folks are on this conspiracy about JFK Jr. coming back to life, and he was never dead. And I don't know if you know about that. That's something they believe. They're like, I don't know.
Yeah, there are a lot of conspiracies, and they try to make people who are talking about conspiracies look like goofballs or psychotic, and these people are it's a conspiracy theory, but now they're the facts now. The rules conspiracy facts. You're looking at so, and then also, if you think about it, think about this for a minute. If you conspiracies are like theories, right? Think about it. It's like, I have a theory. I suspect that something is going on. You criminalize people who suspect that something, just because you think somebody's after you doesn't mean that people aren't really after you. So it's like it's like it's a theory. So now we're going to try to dog people or minimize or invalidate people who say, I just have a theory that all these cows and chickens and all this stuff that's going on mean that there's going to be a shortage of food.
Yeah, these chickens and cows that really died, and these food plants that really burned down,
right? And how that's going to impact
a catalyst to what's to come.
Or how does that happen when you have all these? Did you see the pictures, the images of the cows and stuff all turned upside down, and like what happened?
Yeah, you pushed them over.
Why is that not? Yeah, why is that not in the? Why is that not major news? See, so you get to see that there's something going on when you got to find out about these things. Not on the mainstream, but
the back channels.
And because the back channels, and that's what disappearing freedom, the decline of justice is about. It's a back channel. It's a way for you to actually meet and see some of the folks, just a handful of folks who are impacted by this system. And so it uncovers the system. But what's unique about this film compared to, let's say, the Central Park 5 and all the other, it's indictful. It doesn't say that, oh, this was just a mistake. or it doesn't say that, oh, this is just some bad actors. No, this film looks at the system. It looks at the data. It looks at, this legacy of going into, these communities, plucking these people out with the same kinds of tactics that they've been using for years and years to pin crimes on innocent people. So that's, I think it's a film worth watching. It's a film worth supporting. And by the way, folks, this film is still in production. We still have interviews. If you want to support this film and, you think that these kinds of stories are important, there is a way that you could support us by going to our website. We have a GoFundMe page. We have a wonderful letter by our CFO, Terrence Colbert. Want to give him a huge shout out. He's doing a fantastic job at making sure, we get the word out about your ability to support, because it's so important. Freedom isn't free, but it's so important to support shows like this set any way that you can, even by liking and sharing. That's support. Even by subscribing, that's supporting. And you have the time and the money. We spend so much money on things that are just not important, but somebody who is willing to have a guest like Tylon Washington on his show, who has that kind of freedom and autonomy to do that. And it takes a lot of courage to speak the truth in the world of lies. It really does. So, maybe you can't say it. Maybe your job doesn't allow for you to say and do certain. We understand that this is a time of censorship. So people who are out here who are speaking the truth, who have the courage and the audacity and the imagination to put forth, a lot of this information in a creative way to reach as many people, we do need your support. We are constantly under attack. We're marginalized. I couldn't get on another computer. I was trying. It was just really weird. So find it in your, in your heart to say, you know what? I'm going to make a contribution. I'm going to see to it that this film and films like this are made. Also, try to support somebody who who is in prison, and believe them when they say that they're innocent. You know how the Me Too movement said, believe all women? Believe in no one in prison want to go around really in today's culture talking about they're innocent, because you look at, if somebody is saying that they're innocent and they've been set up, you need to really pay close attention. You need to believe them, because nobody else does.
Yes, sir.
And can you imagine that you've been saying, look, I'm innocent, and someone tells you, no, you're not. We don't even care, and you don't even have redress in the courts. The federal court now has even levied this decision that made it so difficult. It's going to make it almost impossible for you to be repaired, even if you do win your case. So a lot of these things are strategic, and a lot of these things, if you don't know about them, right? Like I'm sure a lot of people didn't know about the Supreme Court decision, or that they even made another decision on if you weren't read your Miranda rights. You know about that one?
They pulled that out too.
Yeah. So now you're not read your rights. So what? You can't sue them now. You wasn't okay. Too bad. Well, you didn't read your rights. So all these so-called privileges, you no longer have. You go say, you didn't read me my rights. They go, they're gonna look at you and laugh and say, so what? Yeah, and so it's gonna be easier to put people in jail and keep them there.
Yep.
And it's easier that way because they're making huge amount of money to do it. Mm-hmm. Communities are raking in the dough at the more and more folks that they not only incarcerate but keep incarcerated for as long as possible. And these are some of the things that you will see and be confronted with on this when you check out this film.
So Tylon, tell everybody where they can go. Is that the website where they can go to contribute down there, ironmetropolis.com?
Yes, absolutely. Go to the film company. The name of the film company is Iron Metropolis, IronMetropolis. That's the name of the film company, and it's ironmetropolis.com. It's a very easy website to navigate. You can see the trailer. Please like and share, and we want to hear your comments as well. So there's a space for you to leave your comments about the trailer, or if you might know someone who has been wrongfully convicted and you're looking for resources and help, we're willing to help you. There's some incredible organizations that are helping people who don't get the light of day. There's people who are actually rolling up their sleeves doing the work. Antonia does it. We got the Hamiltons, Nicole Hamilton, who does a phenomenal job with women who are, dealing with their loved ones, their husbands, who are incarcerated and they have children. They provide food, transportation, resources for women. And our organization is called Suffering in Silence. And there's also Derek Hamilton, who spent something like 25 years. He got out, he sued, and he started his organization called the Families and Friends of the Wrongfully Convicted. So there's organizations that you'll hear about in this film who are doing the work every day, all day. They don't have a day off. They're working today. It's Sunday. They're working to free some of those folks. So definitely reach out to us on our website to find out more. And it's called Iron Metropolis. The name of the film is called Disappearing Freedom, The Decline of Justice. It's the second film in a series of disappearing things because things are leaving. I did a film 10 years ago called Disappearing Voices. This is Disappearing Freedom. And next we're going to be a song called Disappearing Fathers, The Decline of the Black Family.
Oh, wow.
That's coming next. But definitely support this film.
We definitely look forward to that. I want to thank my guest, Mr. Tylon Usavior Washington, always willing and able to contribute. A very creative gentleman, has a great body of work, and is such an impact on our communities, and is an amazing voice. And if you don't know, he has another show called The Colored Only Cafe. You can check him out. It's a great show. There's always a lot of great dialogue and subject matter. You can check him out. Go to Facebook, Colored Only Cafe, and you'll find them there. When do you air your show, Tylon?
It's every Monday. Tomorrow. It's every Monday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. We have folks from Germany that they stay up to sometimes 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
To listen to the show, the program. People from the UK, people from all over listen to this show because it's a safe space for where, if you're a person of color, you're not only encouraged, but you are actually preferred. So it's called the Colored Only Cafe. We deal with a whole lot of really important issues that impact us, but we can speak a little bit more freely than in other spaces. And it's such a diverse, you get to hear the complexity too, because we don't speak with a single voice. We have people from all kinds of economic and religious perspectives.
Right.
But we all come in and we agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And Deshaun Farad, Brother Pete, so many people have just kind of joined this community and became kind of like regulars with regard to being the panelists that really make the show, and people who are a lot smarter than I am, talking about a whole lot of very, very important issues. It's really well worth your time to check it out, and it's every Monday. You can just look for me on Facebook. It's Tylon Washington, and I'll send you a link to connect to our content. You can also see us on, I think, via my page or the Facebook page of the Colored Only Cafe.
Salute. So, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Tylon Washington. Again,
thank you for having me.
Oh no, of course. This is mi casa, su casa. You're always welcome here. Anything that you need to promote, you're part of the family. You just reach out, say the word, and it is what it is. We make it happen. Salute to my compadre, my cousin, Mr. Esteban Quinones, who was actually profiled by myself, an amazing artist, an amazing businessman. Go check out Quality of Life on YouTube. The Set 6145, and you will hear his story personally directly from him. An amazing artist. So, my brother, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to close out the show, and we'll take a minute or two to speak in the green room. But again, as always, man, I really want to thank you. I respect you, and I love what you've done with this film. When is the film being released?
October 31st, Halloween, because just to underscore the horror that many men have to deal with being incarcerated.
salute to all the brothers who've made it home from incarceration. There's a lot of them that do watch the show and have gone on to do amazing things with their lives.
Beautiful.
Some of them work for the city. Some have started their own businesses. But what they all have in common is that they stayed home. So salute to you, brothers. Again, I can't thank you enough, Mr. Washington. Just give me a minute. I'm going to tuck you away, close the show out.
All right.
Thank you so much, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for sticking with us for the conversation. There was going to be a lot to discuss here, and I know we got a little maybe off topic, but these are all things that we really needed to touch on. I felt it was very important. And Mr. Washington is he's just an amazing person. I mean, this guy has a history, as I said, in entertainment and specifically in music. And he's probably had a hand in some of the records that you all grew up on and loved and don't even know it. But this gentleman has always been a willing participant to come through, give me his time, have a discussion, and I really appreciate that from him. There's no half-stepping when it comes to him. So I really appreciate not only his friendship, but again, his time. I'm glad everybody was able to join us. Thank you so much. Next week, we will have something very special for you guys. I will also be releasing my second profile for an artist that I met with yesterday. And I'm going out to Brooklyn to meet with the owner and proprietor of a place called Happy Buds. They are the first Black-owned dispensary down here in Brooklyn. So I hope you guys enjoy that when I do release it. Thank you for giving me your time. And I hope to see you guys next week. All right. Take care, everybody.